Black Panther: Wakanda Forever has come out, and it is absolutely shit. Black Panther 2 has no real story, just a bunch of events happening one after another, carrying almost no weight and impact to either the characters or the plot. Wakanda Forever manages to somehow be both incredibly long and rushed as well, with most of the scenes dragging on way longer than they needed to be, giving anyone a fucking headache who is trying to pay attention, and it leaves you with a horrible feeling when you exit the cinema.
Felt like I'd been rammed in the arse by a horse.
This movie is both incredibly racist, not just with tons of fuck white people moments calling them racial slurs like colonizer, but we also see that black people cannot swim. There are a lot of fatherless kids in Wakanda, and scenes like this. We also see that Namor, the Hispanic man, sneaks across the border into Wakanda illegally, and we see the Wakandans treat anyone who isn't black like they're the shit on their shoe, and hold everyone else to a standard that they themselves don't live up to.
Ironic.
There's also barely any good male characters in this film, and the ones that are there are either outright villains or so incompetent and weak that they basically have been castrated. Because there's no fucking way they would allow a man to upstage their female characters by having a personality. It's why M'Baku is barely in the movie despite being more likeable than these two planks of wood. Wakanda Forever is also very exploitative on using the death of Chadwick Boseman. The way it's portrayed is not very respectful, and how T'Challa dies in the film is basically how the actor died in real life, which is manipulative as fuck. But Ryan Coogler is a piece of shit who doesn't give a fuck as long as he gets paid. The costumes of all the characters looks god fucking awful. The CGI looks like it was made on a PlayStation 2, and the editing is choppy as fuck, with obvious reshoots clumsily spliced together with the original footage, which even a blind man can see. Well, at least the characters are enjoyable.
Right? Wrong.
Shuri's entire character arc is to become Black Panther, and this only happens in the last 10 minutes of the movie. For the rest of it, she is dull as fuck and looks as bored as I am to everything happening around her. Also, Letitia Wright is so tiny and small she looks like a breeze would knock her over, so her taking on men 3 times her size just looks silly. Riri Williams is a completely unnecessary character and is only there to promote the Iron Heart series and to replace Tony Stark. She is nothing more than a plot device. You could easily cut her out of the film and it wouldn't make any difference, except save us from watching an insufferable bitch who murders innocent police officers, and the film just glosses over it. Her and Shuri are the exact same character. They are both teenage super geniuses that are amazing at everything they do. Last but not least is race swap Namor, who is the exact same villain as Killmonger. They are both genociders who want to kill innocent people for retarded reasons, and the way Namor goes about it is so fucking stupid. I had a headache from watching this moron spout off his plans because they are that stupid. Namor will go on to join Marvel's enormous list of villains that no one will remember in a few months' time. With all that said and done, let's summarise the plot and see how they made a nearly 3-hour movie with almost no story. We start off with Shuri trying to make a vibranium flower to cure her brother, but she can't do it for some reason. Well, I guess vibranium can literally do anything else except cure T'Challa, who is dying from a disease. It's not explained what the disease is, but it's Africa, so I can make a guess.
Everyone has AIDS!
Somehow his Black Panther powers have just disappeared, and the Wakandans just forget to put him into stasis like they did for Winter Soldier, so he dies. They then have a toilet paper themed funeral, and his coffin is taken away by a spaceship using tractor beams because Wakanda has Star Wars level technology now. A year later at a UN summit, Wakanda has completely ignored T'Challa's promise to help the rest of the world because fuck T'Challa, I guess. We see that the Queen is being questioned by the UN. Wait, why is she the Queen when Wakanda chooses its royalty by people fighting over a waterfall? I guess they realised how retarded that was and chose to forget about it. The Queen goes on to say that they will never let outsiders get vibranium, not because it's dangerous, but because they are.
Bullshit.
You're the fucking idiots who allowed a genocidal racist to become king and almost kill a bunch of innocent people. And you retards have the balls to lecture everybody else on how they should run their countries.
Well, who the hell are you to talk down to anyone?
We cut to a Wakandan outreach centre in the middle of Mali, and a bunch of soldiers raid the base. They get the researcher to open up a sealed door, and when they do, a bunch of bald women just come out.
Why?
They somehow beat all of the soldiers, and we even see them block bullets with a spear. After the retarded fight scene ends, we see the captured soldiers being paraded in front of the UN, where Wakanda basically takes over the entire building, and no one tells them no, as they can do whatever the fuck they want. The next scene is a deep ocean research base in the Atlantic Ocean that is looking for vibranium, using a vibranium detector. The divers are killed, and the Atlanteans use a siren's call to lure people off the ship and drown them in the sea. This is the first and last time they use this, because the Atlanteans are fucking retarded, as they would easily win the final battle of the movie. The blue people then go on to kill everyone else on the boat. We cut back to Wakanda, and we see that the Queen is returning to her country and crossing the border. So how does the border controls work in Wakanda? Well, all the black people have to do is use a DJ set and some bongo drums to open up an energy wall. The Queen talks to Shuri and wants her to be Black Panther, but Shuri doesn't want to for some reason. So the Queen wants her and Shuri to randomly drive out into the middle of nowhere. Why does she want this? Well, it's so they can bump into Namor later on as he sneaks over the border. How did Namor get past the energy barrier that we saw before? Does it only stop above the water? Because if it does, that's one fucking useless barrier. Also, how can Namor reach Wakanda when the country itself is landlocked from the ocean? And how exactly did Namor know that both the Queen and Shuri would be here alone with no guards?
I don't know.
Namor introduces himself.
My people call me Talokan.
And wants Wakanda's help to stop people looking for the vibranium, which is under his home, and he blames T'Challa as the reason why they are being exposed to the outside world, as he introduced the world to vibranium. So everything in this movie is T'Challa's fault. What a massive fuck you to Chadwick Boseman when this is supposed to be a tribute to him.
You do not sneak into my country and tell me what is fair.
I find it funny how the Queen's stance on illegal immigration doesn't give her a certain label, which she would be called if she just looked different. Namor threatens that if they don't help him, he'll attack Wakanda. Later on, M'Baku walks into the throne room and has an argument with Michonne. See what I mean about this movie being racist? What the fuck has that person got on his lip? Well, I looked it up, and in Africa it's supposed to be used exclusively on women before they are married off to their husbands. Ryan Coogler couldn't be fucking bothered to do the bare minimum research for his job, the lazy bastard. They discuss whether to kidnap the American scientist who built the vibranium detector for Namor, knowing full well he wants to kill her, which they seriously consider doing, with M'Baku being the only person in the room who acts like a sane individual and says that giving in to a blackmailer will only make him demand more.
Thank you!
The Queen agrees to let Michonne take the princess and to abduct an American citizen, because Wakanda can do whatever they want and silly things like international law don't apply to them. Shuri then says this.
When are we leaving so I can see my favorite colonizer?
So it's confirmed that Shuri is a racist and a cunt as well. They meet up with Martin Freeman and want to know who the scientist is.
You owe me, Ross. You owe my brother.
Remember in the first movie when Martin saved the life of a Wakandan woman and they debated leaving him to die rather than taking the minimal effort it took them to save his life? Or how he helped stop a genocidal maniac who was trying to start World War III? He doesn't owe you shit, you owe him, you dumb cunt. Martin Freeman just betrays his country and he tells them that the scientist is Riri Williams, who we see is in college.
What?
Riri is supposed to be the smartest person on Earth and created a one-of-a-kind machine. Then why the fuck is she in college? No one is as smart as her, so how the fuck are the teachers going to mark her work? It's like trying to grade Sir Isaac Newton or Albert Einstein. Nobody would have a clue if their work was right or wrong. Also, Riri is supposed to be a genius, and yet she made the retarded decision to get into a massive amount of student debt for a degree that she doesn't even need.
You fucking idiot!
They enter Riri's room and she says that she invented the vibranium detector just for a school project and only in a few months. So Riri built this machine all by herself and in an impossible time frame.
Bullshit.
As they try to snatch her, Michonne says this.
I like her.
After witnessing some more awful Marvel humour, they leave for Riri's warehouse because every college student owns enormous real estate. They are then surrounded by the authorities. Why? Who knows? It's never explained. As they try to leave, Riri makes an interesting comment.
There's an entire YouTube channel dedicated to silencing me.
I'm guessing that this is based on the backlash to Ironheart replacing Iron Man, and the fact that Riri Williams in the comics is financial poison. Way to show off that it doesn't bother you by commenting about it in a movie with a budget of $250 million. You sure showed them. The agents attack and we see the prototype Iron Man suit that she has built with a fully functional arc reactor. How did she manage to make this? Tony had to make a new element and use $1 trillion company's worth of resources to make it happen.
That doesn't make sense.
They all take off in separate vehicles and we see Riri flying high above the clouds, wearing only a pair of goggles for protection. Remember in Iron Man, when Tony flew the suit for the first time, he not only had to deal with a lack of oxygen, but also the freezing cold as well. That's why his suit is a sealed container. Well, Riri doesn't have to deal with those things because she's amazing. Riri shoots down a drone, which lands on a bunch of police officers who are only doing their job. We've only known Riri for 10 minutes and she's a murderer. They are then ambushed by a bunch of Atlanteans who are wearing masks, probably because these superheroes are scared of getting the kung flu. We then see a badly choreographed fight scene where people use their spears as swords, and it's here we learn that the blue people can shrug off a stab wound through the torso. Remember that because they don't later on. Why do the blue people have water bombs if they are isolationists and stay underwater all of their lives? Wouldn't they be about as useful as using a blow dryer on someone? The whole goal of the blue people is to kill Riri Williams, which they do not do. Instead, they kidnap her and Shuri as well.
Why?
Michonne teleports back to Wakanda and the Queen kicks her out of the Bald Women Club and she cries.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're crying like a woman.
I forgot to mention that Shuri has a Jarvis knockoff who is capable of tracking her beads, but only after her daughter, the last heir to the throne, has been missing for at least a day does she finally decide to check.
You are stupid.
So why did they wait a whole day? The real reason they waited so long is because they needed Martin Freeman to show up and smuggle away evidence from the crime scene. Martin Freeman is just a Wakandan spy at this point, except he's treated with very little respect. The Queen goes to Haiti and meets T'Challa's girlfriend, who she believes can help find Shuri. So how does this Master of Disguise try to find Shuri? By going to a random Mexican village dressed like this. And the very first person she meets tells her about Namor.
Do you realize how retarded that sounds?
We cut to Atlantis and for some reason there's a massive air pocket in the ocean they live in. Namor decides to tell Shuri his entire backstory for no reason. Well, it turns out that his tribe found a bullshit vibranium flower that turns them all blue, and they fled into the ocean to build a city because of the Spanish. After his mother dies, she wants to be buried on land, and as he takes her body to the shore, he accidentally wanders into a slave camp and kills all the white people. After this pointless backstory is over with, Shuri wants to see the rest of Atlantis, and luckily Namor has a fully functional high-tech scuba suit that she can use, even though everyone in Atlantis doesn't need one. That is the exact same as having a spacesuit in your cupboard. Namor then tells Shuri his plans, that he wants to murder all of the people on the surface, and he wants Shuri's help because they are alike as they are both racist societies. He then gives her his mother's bracelet, which he has held onto for hundreds of years. He does this for no other reason than the plot needs her to have it later on. T'Challa's ex tracks down Shuri through her earrings, and somehow manages to get to the bottom of the ocean and into Namor's palace very easily, and rescues the pair of them with almost no effort. We cut to Martin Freeman, who continues to go full turncoat and informs the Queen that the Americans want to attack Wakanda because they keep breaking every fucking country's laws. Shuri and Riri return to Wakanda just in time for Namor to invade. He floods the city because he knows that Wakandans can't swim, and a big CGI fight breaks out, and somehow M'Baku doesn't die from this punch. Namor then goes on to kill the Queen with water bombs, and after having easily beaten Wakanda and killed its monarch with only a handful of men, he suddenly decides to give them a week to join him and just leaves.
I have a few questions.
1. If Wakanda is this easy to beat, then why do you even need them? 2. Why would they join you after you just killed their queen and sacked their city? 3. Why does this dumb fuck not check to see if Riri Williams is still alive before flying off? And 4. Why are the Wakandans trying CPR and not using some of that bullshit vibranium that can do literally anything?
I don't know.
We then see the Queen's funeral, which is only about 30 seconds long before moving on to the next scene. Well, I guess fuck the Queen then. Remember when Namor gave away his mother's bracelet, the last thing he has from her, to Shuri for no reason? Well, it turns out that the bracelet is just the thing she needs to complete the flower and give her Black Panther powers.
Fuck off!
She goes into a dream and bumps into Killmonger, where he gives a shit "we're not so different, you and I" speech, which doesn't make any sense, and then she goes on to become Black Panther.
Oh god, I'm so bored!
So after learning absolutely nothing from the fight against the Atlanteans, they take a submarine and fight Namor in the ocean, where the seamen are at their strongest. We then have a big awful CGI battle, and they lock Namor in a sauna, but he just stabs through the floor easily and blows up the ship.
I know what's going on here. You've all become idiots!
Namor then stabs Shuri right through the torso, which doesn't hurt her at all. She even does a flip over him, so she could use the engines of a completely destroyed ship that shouldn't be working, and burns him. Shuri decides not to kill Namor, and because of this he decides not to invade the surface world, and everyone else just stops fighting. What the fuck was the point in even going to war if you were going to give up this easily? So after the world's shittest war was over, the movie ends with Martin Freeman being found out as traitor and arrested, but he is rescued by Michonne, who makes one last racial slur by calling him a colonizer.
Fuck off.
And that's the end of the movie. This was nearly 3 hours and fuck all happens. This was painfully bad to watch and is a complete waste of time, which is a perfect way to cap off Phase 4 of Marvel, with Spider-Man being the only good thing to come out of Marvel. Every other product, be it TV or movie, has been complete dog shit, and from the things I've been hearing about Blade, Phase 5 might be even worse. So yeah, that was Wakanda Forever, an atrocious movie that I never thought would end, and was fucking glad when it did. Don't even bother to hate watch it. Diarrhea is more fun than this shit.